welcome. We are here to talk about AI and content and marketing and search. What specifically I'm going to be talking about today is really two things. First, how to think about creating content, and then second, how consumers, shoppers, might find your brand using not just Google but AI to actually discover and learn more about your brand. So my background as an ex-agency owner well, I'm still an ex-agency owner. I've not started the new agency for 15 years and worked. I work in Denver, so being close to Boulder, and just my values brought me into the natural product, natural food CPG space. I had a number of clients at the agency. I still have a number of natural food clients. I'll probably mention a few of them that I currently work with as a marketing and AI consultant. I also do things online. I have a podcast. I have a B2B software platform, and I'm a developer for an AI company called Chip. And at the agency, what's great is I got to work with a lot of big brands, Volkswagen and Remax internationally, O'Reilly and Lands End in big retail, hospitality with Aspen and Vail, a lot of CPG, at a high level. So it gives me a good perspective we're up against. But I've also been in this space for, 7, 8 years, go to Expo West, understand the importance of, sustainability, sourcing, natural health and wellness, what we're kind of all up against with retail and Amazon and direct consumer and all that. So I understand the space that we're in. But more importantly, we're here to talk about AI. And I'm not necessarily an AI fanboy, but I am deeply integrated into AI. So I wanted to give you my perspective that in the next year, even though we're going to see huge advances in AI and all of the marketing tech software is bringing AI, we're still dealing with limited intelligence and limited automation. Now, I know we just had DeepSeek come out and we have, minis coming out of Open API and everyone's throwing, AI tools everywhere, but this is still mostly marketing. And whether it's a few years from now or 4 or 5 years from now, I still believe that there is going to be a place for a marketer. It's going to be very, very important. And there's going to be just as many positions that are created with the advent of AI as, people are afraid that are going to be eliminated. So we're really here today to talk about how to leverage AI and how to think about it. So we're first, like I said, going to talk about branded content. If I throw out words, I'll do my best to define them. I hate going to webinars where there's a lot of acronyms and things I have to look up, but you may learn a few new words today, but I'm going to keep this, really simple. And when I say something like rag, I'm actually introducing it so that you can kind of add that to your, you might throw it out there someday if someone's trying to impress you with their AI knowledge. So let's talk about generating content. The brand and platform that I have is called Tidal Wave Content. It's a catchy little name. You probably think of this, huge wave coming. And the reason that I named it that is not so much to have a catchy name, but that I believe that brands should have a steady wave of content around topical themes that build your authority, not just with Google and the social media algorithms and the large language models, but actually repeatedly resonates with the target audience, but then also allows your team to scale your content because it's similar. So these waves of content we're gonna kind of talk about and how you would be continuously doing it repetitiously as opposed to big pushes that are campaign based. And why? Why do I take this approach? Well, I grew up in digital marketing with Google, right? I got into the industry right as Google was rolling out and prior to Meta and social. So my bearing is the Google algorithms and the things that they've done over the years. And one of the things they did is when they focus on the user, which is number one in their value set, the 10 things that they believe to be true. Number one is focus on the user and all else will follow. So what Google does is they reward what's called expertise, experience, authority, and trust, EEAT. So if you are an expert in a topic and you have experience in it, and you can demonstrate that by being authoritative and being trusted, links, Google says, all right, I'll rank you. You're probably somebody I want to show to visitors. But in addition, they put another layer on it that says, hey, is the content helpful? Does it have information gain? Meaning, are you saying something that is kind of a unique take that I'd want to show searchers of Google? And they've been enforcing this more. There were a multiple of core updates that rolled out in 2024, and the primary goal of each one, and the first one happened about February or March of last year. The last one just happened in mid-December, is to not just eliminate spam or content that's thin, but actually reward people who are producing helpful content. So the way that I view it is that the best way to produce helpful content with limited resources is a combination of people and leveraging AI. And Google has stated to this, they could change any day, that they have no issue with AI generated content. They only have an issue with content that is meant to game the system or is not helpful. If it's helpful content and you used AI, they don't care. They really don't care how you make the useful content. They need content for their search results. And so they're glad that we make it no matter how we make it. So let's talk about this wave of content before we jump into the AI part of it, because I see different types. I'm going to give you some examples of these waves. It's either informational, lifestyle, or thought leadership. And it can be all kinds of things: video, social media, graphics, blog post. But let's just talk about this informational. This is a brand called Wild Planet Foods. Their informational content, it's recipes. That's good. Recipes, low conversions, but a lot of awareness, great for social media. But one of the things they do that's really helpful is that after they have their influencers develop the recipes, they write long format content to merchandise it, and that creates helpful, valuable content for someone trying to put a meal together using tuna, sardines, whatever it might be. How does this type of content do? This is SEMrush. It measures how many keywords they're ranking for. And you can see by just sticking to this over the years, and I probably update the slide, but they're continuing to see this, is it's just a nice steady stream of introducing people to their brand and making them aware through a real simple, not low effort, but relatively low effort. They're using, influencers to do it. And it's also useful for email and social media to just try to, create this wave of content. Now, here's a different brand where we're getting a little bit more into the consideration phase. Like, yeah, recipe's easy, but how does your product actually help me? So here's a popular topic for January during dry January. Curious about going sober, drink your herbs instead. This is where you can write copy to say, I'm going to bring people in and solve a problem, a condition, something they're challenged with, an opportunity, and I'm going to introduce them to my brand. It takes a little bit more effort, but it has higher conversion rates, and we start to see e-commerce and shopping start to pick up off these type of interviews, off these type of things. The last type, and again, heavy use of AI here, is something is more thought leadership, where using more human interaction, even introducing video. And what happened here is I interviewed a brand owner, an entrepreneur, about the things that he was doing in the brand, and then we created blog content out of it. So and that's just a process of doing the interview, transcribing it, and then from that coming up with content ideas. In 2025, I probably did 50 of these, where in 45 minutes of interviewing back and forth, we're able to produce content with quotes and video clips, even YouTube shorts or TikTok or Facebook videos of just things that came directly from either the founder or maybe whoever, in my industry, I call them subject matter expert, wherever that came from. And to be able to pull these type of things off, like lots of recipes, lots of middle of the funnel consideration, writing questions for interview briefs, transcribing it, coming up with ideas. In my business, what I have done to produce this type of content, and I teach brands to do, is heavy use of AI. I could have never done this as by myself or the brands. A typical team that I would work with at a brand could be a single marketer, could be one or two or three, but not large teams. And what we're able to do with AI is generate a lot more content because we're letting AI help us do research, help us do transcriptions and the stuff. So let's dive into what that actually looks like. And I'm not going to go into super depth. I'm going to give you a little bit of just a high level peek into some of the things that are going on. First, I'm focused on the user, which is about persona. I believe we should not write a piece of content, even an email that's going to go out with anything without having the target audience, the customer front and center. So what I'm an advocate of is building text-based personas. Yeah, I'll have a picture of them so I can visualize them. But since I'm working in AI and a large language model, I want to make sure that I have something that is readable. So there's a form here that I made available to you guys. You can go through it and fill it out. But the bottom line is that it creates a real simple persona. Who is this person? What is their challenge? What are their values that are going to be their motivations to buy your product? And these are just little simple bullet points that we have. There are demographics, and we know those, but it allows the AI or the large language models to take that person into consideration every time it writes something. Before I show you kind of how that works, I actually think that there should be multiple personas. So here's three personas that I use when I'm crafting content for a product called Shine Turbine. It generates power off the wind when you're camping or in your van or just whatever it might be. So I not only use one persona, but there's actually three. There's somebody who's eco-friendly, somebody who is living the van life, and then somebody who's just an outdoor enthusiast. And I think he might even be a photographer, not sure. But when I write content, I'm actually doing it multi-persona. That way, now I can just pick one if I'm writing a particular piece of content or a collection specific to them, but I'm now taking into account three different people. Now, what I want to start introducing is the idea that AI can handle this. I could give it 10. It will take them all into consideration. That's a bit harder for a human. So the human might have the ideas, we might have the topic we want to write, but it's really hard for us to take into account different perspectives while we're also tasked with writing hooks and copy and optimizations. So you can layer on AI and do more with it. So I'll show you kind of here that the first thing that I want to do using AI is, and I want to break this down in steps. I'm not a believer in one-shot prompts. Even when I build complicated workflows, every step is a separate prompt or a separate worker, even if we're going agentic. I know I'm using AI words now, but that's this year where, you're tackling things that are more complicated. I still always break it down into one step at a time to understand what I'm doing. So this particular step is with those personas in mind before I ever think about writing a piece of content is I develop out the concepts. So what I've done here is I've loaded some things into Claude. Most people don't use Claude. I'm probably 50-50 between ChatGPT and Claude. There are some other engines and large language models that I use, but I use those two primarily. Claude tends to be a better writer. OpenAI and ChatGPT tends to be more analytical and better at reasoning. That could change tomorrow, depending on version releases and stuff. So what I've done is I've taken the persona and some other documents, and I've come up and I've asked to come up with different topics. Now that when I did that, I want to show you what this looks like. I use a feature in Claude. It's been about 6 months called projects. And what I'm able to do, and I told you, I'd tell you what RAG is. It's retrieval augmentation. Anyway, I'll look up the thing. I don't even know what it means. But basically, what it is it's this knowledge base over here where I'm giving it more information so that every time that I run a prompt, and I've run hundreds for Shine Turbine for generating content, it has the three personas in there already. I can either reference them directly, and I may sometimes to really have the prompt focus in on the person, but then also it's always there. And I've further developed out brand promises and about the team, and I've got their product SKUs in here. But this knowledge base that I have inside of the Claude project means that the prompts are personalized when I get the copy back. So it's already thinking about who is the person, what do they want, what is the brand communicating, what are the writing guidelines, whatever might happen. That's just integrated into the prompting chats that I'll go through, and that's available in Claude projects. And there's no limit to the number of projects you have. You may have to be on the $20 a month plan. I'm not sure because I tend to just subscribe to got a lot of $20 per month plans. but tend to subscribe to them. But you could have you want to set up different projects for different groups of prompts you're going to do. Even if you have to kind of multiple load, it will remember. You can see. I went and screen captured this a while ago. I helped them with a product launch about 5 months ago, but now it's just there historically. If they call me up and want to do some more work, I go back to the project. It's all loaded. It's kind of just my workspace. So if you haven't played with this, whether it's in Claude or I'll show you a version of it in Chat GPT or other platforms, always be looking for how do you build your knowledge base? How do you add the RAG or the materials they're going to personalize and give direction to the large language model so that it can give better outputs for you. So once I kind of know the topic, again, breaking it down step by step, is that I very methodically do the outline based on the topic. I do the optimization, whether or not you have access to an SEO tool. I use SERP for SEO and have for years, or you can actually do pretty good optimization using Claude. Just tell it to SEO it against these keywords. It understands the frameworks and best practices of SEO. You could even tell it to optimize it against Google's helpful content. If you can do some amount of optimization right in Claude, but when this happens is I arrive at something that I call base copy, which I think is the equivalent of a college intern giving me bad copy that I can use as my starting point. Now, I say bad copy, it's usually not that terrible. It probably actually would pass for a blog post a couple years ago, meaning it's usually 1,000 to 1,200 words, and it's got the facts, but it doesn't have the sizzle. So what happens from here once I have optimized base copy is that before I go to the next step, I'll show you what I tend to do is I build a copywriter in Chat GPT. This is one that was built for an herb company. You put in the herb that you're looking for, and it takes the personas, all of the RAG and the knowledge base, and as it goes and accesses its knowledge of a particular herb, let's say I'm going to show you in a second, Herba Santa, the product guidelines and everything is already getting customized into the base copy generation. The reason I say this is that the base copy is fully optimized and has the product information in it already. It has the writing styles already, so that then what happens is that somebody who better understands the brand, usually, probably someone on this call, once I give someone base copy, they humanize and enrich it. What do I mean by that? It's like we got to not sound like a machine. There's telltale things that happen. One that I highlighted here is big, long, dense paragraphs. Humans like to scan. Nobody actually reads content like they read a book. I'll read content online and they read a book. You can see that even here, I went from a dense paragraph to breaking it up. And it doesn't affect the optimization, the scoring, or the length. It's just a simple readability thing. Another thing that's important in enrichment is actually linking your content together. So while I can use AI to write copy, it doesn't understand the relationship to other blog posts, to collection pages, to specific products. Maybe when should you link to a YouTube video? It does not understand how to do enrichment, how to add quotes. It can't understand those nuances. So I always provide base copy, give it to a brand writer, and then they can publish. Now, the reason that I focused on long format content is the hardest thing to do with AI is to get it to work with a 2,000 word piece of copy. It gets fatigued. Now I can break it up and write up, a number of 400 or 500 word pieces of content, and that's how I approach it. But once I have that long format content, whether it be a page, a post, maybe a transcript from YouTube because we recorded it, then I can reach back into short form content and work on Google ad copy, doing a social media post, writing customer emails. Those are relatively easier once you produce the long form content and can reference it either through internal docs or directly from website URLs. But what's important in all of this is that instead of starting in the middle, which is usually what people try to do, they try to write a website page or they try to write a social media post. You need to first start at your foundational docs and use AI to do it, and to build your persona, to work on your tone and voice. Then you should probably move to long form content and get kind of really verbose in the longer items, because then AI can go into that with direction and write really good ad copy or a landing page, or help you do copy, or even, I mean, it's progressed a lot of graphic for a social media post. Does this work? When we measure the results, this is a blog post that was rewritten. It was actually out there on the internet. We grabbed it in December and ran it through the process, and we doubled the amount of keywords it ranked for. We doubled the traffic, and not a huge amount of value. This would actually have cost a couple $100 per month if we just wanted to buy the traffic. But for this particular, this is the Herbisanta one for Wish Garden Herbs. We did this 15 times in a month. It starts to multiply. So when you start doing things in a wave, these things add up, and also you get a all tides right. The tide rises all boats. So what we've experienced is that we've lifted the blog up to make it more helpful. We've established more topical authority around herbalism. And what's happening is the entire website is seeing more SEO traffic for its product collection and money keywords, because we're now seen as more of authority using our long format blog content that also, is backed up with social media strategy. And we're going to start talking about YouTube. How do I manage all this? That's the Tidal Wave Content web app. It manages the content brief, the writing process, the optimizations that take place. It's a low code Airtable interface, but lots of automations that take place here, and AI is integrated to help to help produce it. So what I want to leave you with is that the before we move into the AI search that I find just even more interesting, is that in today, what I'm finding with brands, even smaller brands, so in the CPG space, I would say at the 3, 4, 5, even down at the 3, 4, 5 million range, but definitely as you get up to about the 10 million range, it's table stakes now, if you want to be direct to the consumer, that you are producing educational, topical, and consideration content on your website. You should definitely be piloting how you would do this, but you almost should be thinking about scale if you're going to meet the search demand that's going to come from AI, because of the way that the large language models are finding, discovering, and building the models for to direct people to brands in something like ChatGPT. So content, we've all heard this and people have said it. I mean, content being king drove Google. I mean, it's got to be good content. Even as we move into large language models, it's still true. All of the large language models were trained on the content of the internet. They're going to be trained on the videos that they can find outside of YouTube. Like they need content to be trained. It's the way that they're interfacing with the world right now. So if you produce the content either for Google or for large language model focused on the user, right, you will find that it will generate traffic. We don't know to what degree. It depends on how, what is your strategy and how successfully is it executed. But AI can help you first pilot a program, but then scale it. That would allow the same size team, whether it's one person or 10 people, to see multiple factors. I usually see a 3, 4, or 5x factor using the same amount of time and resources for the amount of content you can put out once you integrate AI into your workflow. I've been doing AI integration now for about a year. Yes, there's change management. Yes, there's a little learning curve, but 70% of it is really understanding content strategy and how to develop it and how to actually make the algorithms work for you. And then AI just helps you do it all faster. AI is not a silver bullet at the moment, but wow, it's really cool for collapsing time and introducing efficiencies to put things out at scale. If anybody had any questions about that, I mean, I through this app, I mean, we've produced thousands of blog posts and supporting social media posts, and so piloting and scaling a small team to produce content at it is, slam dunk. That's just table stakes. What is newer is moving into AI search. So this. Nope, hope all that we kind of followed along. Expect to get not lost in this next section, but potentially see some things you haven't seen before. So I sat down in December and did a deep dive into AI search, and I'll show you the reason that I did that. I tend not to jump on trends at the immediate time that they come out, but I am definitely an early adopter. So when I sat down, I did that classic exercise of I'm going to read everything I can find online. This is probably 20% of what I read, just so you have it for reference. But what I did with it, I think you'll find interesting as you think about how would you produce uh, content waves and how you would work through, because I did create a content wave out of this. But what I did is I loaded into a product called Google Notebook. This product rolled out, I think, this probably version in November. I was curious to see what it could do for me, but I loaded all of those PDFs that I made from those website pages into Google Notebook, and I started running it, and it was analyzing all this content for me. And it'll do things. A lot of people like to use it to like make a podcast so they can listen to it. But it created this knowledge base and helped me ask questions and um, dig into this concept of AI search. So even if you are talking about something that you're an expert in, or if you just have basic understanding, this is a process where you can sit and collaborate with AI with a product like Google Notebook. There was another a product that's Stanford put out called Storm that a lot of people have liked. I like the interface on the book a little bit more. I've used both of them, but the concept is how do you do that same exercise that I just went through, but you can do it in minutes. And there are ways to do it, and Storm will help you do that. Now, out of this research that I read, but then went into AI and started interacting with it, it actually helped me write the blog series. The complete wave is about 15 blog posts. I only did the first five in December. And you can click on these and read these. They're on my website, which is taimu.ai. But I did a deep dive into AI overviews. I'm going to walk you through just the high level for a second. SEMrush, who is a leader in the space, did a deep 100-page research article. I boiled that down into a blog post. I dove into what generative engine optimization is, or GEO, which is the chat GPT version of SEO. How do you create content that will rank in the algorithms, and how is it different? And short answer is that it's about 20% different. 80% of the rules you follow for SEO, you can, because it's content driven, will probably work in GEO, but there's a couple other nuances you kind of have to think about, because not only how the algorithms work, but the fact that Google and OpenAI and Microsoft and they're well, Microsoft and OpenAI are friendly, but they're still competitors. Google absolutely does not want to cooperate with OpenAI, and, for example, will not let OpenAI crawl Reddit, who they recently made a big investment in. Amazon and Google are both investing heavily in Claude. Like this is a political issue about how this is all going to unfold, and business issue as much as it is what each platform and algorithm do. You kind of have to figure out who's partnering with who, and who's feeding, which data to which engines, to understand like how this all works. But outside of that, all of these things are basically they're chat and they're an answer engine. So even though we're thinking about large language models, are you providing answers that people ask questions for? This has become more important when we get into voice and Apple Intelligence, because the multimodal aspect of this is that when I talk to ChatGPT on my phone as a shopper, and I do, that conversation is in my browser when I go back, and I can pick it back up, or I can start research on the phone to build a deck, and all the materials that I need. Go to Home Depot, pull up my Chat GPT chat, take my phone out and start taking pictures to let it help me remember what it is I found on my desktop. So this concept of answering questions, the what, why, how things are going to be incredibly important in the future. And this is all based on the concept of an answer engine. There's a question and an answer. Yes, it's Siri and Alexa, but it's more advanced when you get into AI. And then with all of that said, between the agentic nature of something like Notebook and the answer engine, how are the AI search engines different? Right. That's what we really want to look at here. So all that was covered in there. So let's start at AI overviews. I just want to make so that I don't go too fast. An AI overview, I'm going to show you what it looks like, is oh, let me show you one thing here. This is kind of fun. Everyone builds chatbots, right? Like people come to me like, oh, I built a chatbot for my website. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. What's the use case? Well, here's an interesting use case. I just built a chatbot based on the 25 PDFs that I found embedded in the Google Notebook, plus my content. You can actually go and interact with it on the website, so that as you learn more about AI overviews or want to have the same, an experience of what I experienced with perspective, you can go in and chat with it, and it's going to be focused in on the research and the things that I uncovered instead of just the general internet. So, but back to AI overviews. So here's a typical search. This is for benefits of blue vervain, which is an herbal drug that helps with hormonal health. So Wish Garden Herbs, who's a client, they rank number 3. That's great. We do good SEO. They get organic traffic. They sell product. Everyone's happy. Okay, so but then, and why has that happened? Is because we optimized it, right? This gets a 73 out of 100. It's 250 words. We've got a nice blog post that ranks. We have a good product, so it's good. Google AI overview showed up and something happened. So now here's a ranking for them. They're number 1 for postpartum herbs. It's a little hard to read, but two things have happened. One, we've got this rich snippet that Google put in, and that started happening, 5, 6 months ago. And that, it's universal search that happens. Shopping shows up, and these different type of cards show up. But look at what Google did at the top. They introduced an AI overview that pushed everything down. So on a mobile phone, you ain't getting to the number 1 ranking. On desktop, I'm probably not getting down there because I'm going to click around up here on the AI overview. It looks interesting. Postpartum herbs. All right, here's the herbs I need, and I can click around. Now, this is why the study from SEMrush was so important. Being number 1 for organic does not mean you'll show up in the AI overview. In fact, it only happens about 50 to 60% of the time that the number 1 ranking is in the overview. If we look at any of the top 3 positions, they're only in there between 25 and 40% of the time. So everyone who's thinking, oh, I'm probably okay with my organic with Google AI overviews because my SEO is taken care of, you can't assume that. There's also brands who are now doing well in AI overviews that do not have the traditional SEO strength. Now, why I'm not going to get into now, but it is a solvable problem if you understand both algorithms. But these AI overviews are causing changes in organic traffic or how people find brands on Google. One interesting thing from an analytics standpoint, I probably mentioned this later, is that it doesn't show up as organic traffic. It shows up as direct. So you may actually do really well in AI overviews, but your organic traffic and e-commerce revenues is going down because Google's not reporting it as organic traffic, just like they don't report an organic shopping feed as organic traffic. When you get either pay, when you get organic shopping traffic, it's credited to a different campaign in a different channel. So one of the reasons that this is more important for this group is that health is one of the most uh, served up AI overview industries. Now, e-commerce and shopping is really low. That's because Google has the shopping feeds. But there's a lot of condition or health challenges that people may be trying to solve by eating better or being, I mean, even if just a health and wellness play, Google is introducing AI overviews for brands like us more than anybody else. And what triggers it? It's typically a what, why, how question that triggers how is biggest, what is next. So you kind of say, all right, well, if I want to show up in AI overviews, you write more content that answers questions. Absolutely. Or you answer questions inside of your content. so that you get viewed as an authority who answers the answer engine that actually just forget all the fluff and forget all your products. Can you just answer my question? People don't have attention span for 2,000 words, but inside of the 2,000 words, you can answer a lot of questions. Or you can make the entire thing about, an uber high level question that then has things underneath it. But how, why, what, is, do, can, that's what's happening. For the herb company, this is what happened last year. This is why I got real interested. They ranked for about 7,000 keywords. By December of last year, 20% of their keywords had AI overviews on them as tracked by SEMrush. So this wasn't true in August or September. So what's happening is that even like using AI internally, great, not go for it. AI got introduced to shoppers via Google and AI overviews. I watched it happen. Nobody ever thought of using AI to search. Google started pushing it at them, and sure enough, um, we started seeing, and you can track this in GA4 if you set up a custom filter. We started seeing this was, I think, in November. We saw 170 people come from an AI engine. Now you might say there's only 7,000, like these aren't big, it's not a big number, but it's just the beginning. This is just now happening. We're going to see more and more people come to your website from AI. And this isn't counting Google. This is only tracking SearchGPT, Perplexity, U.com. That's all I can track. We cannot yet track when somebody does a Copilot search on Bing. It's still, that's still going to come in kind of funny, but that's true AI traffic. So, who are your AI engines that I want you to focus on or think about? First, SearchGPT, which is CodeGPT, which is the Chat GPT. Up until about a month ago, you had to hit the search button so that when you typed herbal remedies for the holiday stress, you would get something that uh, would actually access the internet, do searches, and compile a result based on what it found. So you can see, like, here's real simple, our learning herbs. It did a search of the internet and then answered your question and then told you where it found each little piece of code of copy. And this is about the length of what it looks for. It's usually looking for a couple sentences that it finds inside of your long format content. And it compiled an answer. Now, what GPT is doing, and it started right around the end of the year, beginning of January, if it feels like there is search intent, it'll automatically run search. What it'll also do is it will ask the chatter, if the person doing the chat, if they want a search. Now it's kind of camouflaged, like it'll say, "Oh, I see that you're stressed, or you're asking about holiday stress. Would you like to know of some herbal remedies?" So it's instigating the search because it knows that that would be useful and help the person. So that's how this kind of gets triggered. But yes, what's happening is people are going to Chat GPT and they are typing in keywords because that's how the shopper is programmed. I'll just put in a few keywords. That's how I search. So that must be how I interact with the chatbot. Yes, they'll ask questions or there could be a conversation, but we're seeing most people just go, "What am I oh, gift for mom. Great. I'm just going to see what GPT does." So that's Search GPT. This is Bing, and you're going to start seeing some overlaps. Bing right now will integrate. They'll do an AI overview type thing like Google does, but they also have a standalone Copilot search engine that will let you kind of see where they're headed. So in this case, I did the same on Copilot, which is what Microsoft is calling it search engine. I think that's confusing because Copilot is also their enterprise level internal business suite, whatever their product line is called. They call it Copilot. I know what they're doing, but interesting branding. But when I run Copilot, I get a similar result. Herbal remedies for holiday stress. Here came the herbs that are good, and then again, where the citations and the references are coming from learning herbs and Glover Ridge herbs. So here we are on Search GPT and on Copilot, and learning herbs was the brand that was referenced both times. Now, the brand we're talking about, or that I work with, Wish Garden, wasn't referenced. What is Learning Herbs doing? And we're not going to dive into it here, such that they get, because we're addressing this and have decoded it. Why are they getting these why are they the ones coming up? Because it's going to drive traffic to them. Maybe not, maybe not a ton, But if they're who both OpenAI and I know OpenAI is feeding Copilot, which is why the similarities. But now we have OpenAI and that large language model both on Bing and Search GPT serving up this brand. I would rather be that brand than not be that brand. Let's look at Perplexity. Most people have not ran Perplexity. This actually is a different type of search engine. I could run it if we had time, but I'll give you the basics. What it's doing is similar to what GPT and Copilot are doing, except it does it in real time, meaning that when you look herbal remedies for holiday stress, it goes out and looks into its index, its database. It finds the 10 articles that look like that it would be a good solution and it reads them for you. So much like you do when you get the 10 links, you start clicking them and looking at them. Perplexity does the same thing in seconds, and then it brings back the answer based on the top 10 brands articles that it found, and then it also contains links to those sources. So you can kind of see that what's happening in the AI and will continue is the methodology being used by multiple brands that built an interface. The concept is simple. Let's go take the 5 to 10 items that we can find, review them and condense them down, and then provide an answer to the searcher or shopper. So your goal is to be inside of those 10, and you've got to produce content to feed that. So this is GenSpark, works the same way. Really interesting search engine, but the reason I want to bring this one up is it also found learning herbs and it has no connection to now it could have been using OpenAI in the back end. I have no idea. I actually think when I looked into it, they use a combination, which is a popular technique, is to grab some of it from OpenAI and ChatGPT, grab some from Anthropic and Claude, maybe grab a little from anything you can find online. Just kind of, bring it all back and compile it. But again, the top citations with ashwagandha, we're back to learning herbs, kind of saying, all right, we're the ones who have put out the best information about herbal remedies for holiday stress relief. But again, this particular query took, I don't know, 5 seconds, but it went out and did a lot of research of what it could find on the internet, brought it back, compiled it for me, and did that. Exa, same thing. This one is a little bit more data driven. They're working on their UX, but you can see I hope I'm articulating that various players, and they're well funded, are going out and trying to create a different experience that is somewhat like search, but it's a level up. That you can initiate the search and get better information back. U.com actually shows you what it's doing step by step. It investigated, it identified, it researched, it explored safety, it then found information on usage. Like it already knows as a AI agent what you should be thinking about if you're about to take an herb and put it in your body. Right? Like which one is it and what should you be concerned about? These are things that herbalists traditionally, like if you walked in Vitamin Cottage or if you went to, the website, these are things that someone had to explain, and sure, it built it knowledge based on what it could find online. But you can see how it's saying, all right, we're going to try to solve the problem a little bit more comprehensively than making somebody having to do all this work. So it on Google and read all this information. So it definitely changes how someone might look for information. I think I threw this in as well. This is another research agentic search engine. This is called deep research. So you're kind of sitting down and diving into something deep. But in my world, when I'm producing content, when I'm even I do a lot of CPG work, but I do a lot of B2B work as well. I do not use Google search the way I did a year ago. I started these engines and research a topic and let it do all of this work for me. And will a typical shopper do that? No. But what I do know they'll do is that they're going to pull out their iPhone. I don't mean to, I know that droids exist and Google has good market share, but they're going to pull out their iPhone and they're going to ask it a question. And then what we're seeing through these search engines is how the process is going to work. Is that there's a comprehensive search that's done based on the known information online that is then put through some type of filters to arrive at learning herbs, maybe in this case, as a recommendation of where you should buy your ashwagandha, right? That's going to be the end result. Now, how you participate in that and how somebody goes about it, but I can speak firsthand that in December, as a shopper, and again, I know I'm an early adopter, I got my phone out and I was on a walk and I said, gift ideas for my mom. And I think I was talking to, yeah, I was talking to Search GPT. I wasn't talking to Rufus on Amazon. And it gave me some ideas. The one I liked was kitchen and spices. And so I then asked it what kind of theme could I do. It recommended like Mediterranean and Italian. So I said, okay, if I want to spend less than $50, where can I get that type of themed spice gift? And then it told me to go buy it at Savory Spice. And then it said, do you want their website address or do you want the closest location? I mean, it got me all the way to the decision point of do I want to go retail or do I want to go direct to consumer? That's how far the conversation got me. And then it was ready. I didn't try it. The walk was over, but I mean, when I went back and looked at it, it gave me the website address. It did not give me the location yet. I don't know. I could go back and test that, but I just want to, like, you need to, you want to pay attention to how the consumer behavior is going to change with Rufus on Amazon, with Apple and shopping, or just people as they start to do, and they're not doing it yet, but it's coming, that they're going to start talking with their phone in a much more sophisticated way. And even if they don't, a bunch of people are using Search GPT to do discovery of brands and products and solutions, and it's going to change shopper marketing. There are a lot of instances too, like the smart shopping carts that Instagram's putting in the stores that are going to have AI built into them. We don't know exactly how that will take place. The retailers, take your Krogers and Walmarts, they are heavily building AI and doing research into how to build out their product catalogs, mainly because content syndication sucks and it doesn't work very well. They're trying to figure out how to augment because it's very hard for brands to do that for them on a consistent basis. You don't have the resources. Like AI is going to show up all over the place, and AI learns. This is what is so important. It learns based on the information it can find online. So if you become prolific in creating helpful content for Google, and Google just, I use them as a standard because they got it right with focusing on the user making helpful content. If you make that content on your website and you put it on partner websites and you put it in other places, the Wish Garden Herbs folks just published an article on iHerb, like to help. And that's one of the techniques that Learning Herbs does is publish on other websites, not only for the link, but just so you're found out there. Your brand will get recognized inside the large language models almost through sheer force. But because you've put out great content and they know it because they know how to read and analyze the content that's being produced to know if it's better than everybody else. Like Google's doing this with humans and algorithms that are a little older. They're introducing AI. The new large language models do it directly with AI on the way in to create these sets and embedded vectors that break down topics and do things that we just can't even really understand. And it's not that they're smarter; they just can do things much, much faster, and they do it using numbers instead of letters and words. So they've got an advantage on us with the ability to process large amounts of information. But the key is, and with that long-winded, monologue there at the end, is how can you leverage AI first to produce content that is helpful and useful and is part of the consideration in educating, helping people decide, and then connecting with you as a human. Like that's important in your content. But then how do you get it out there so that not only does Google for SEO, but let's say that, that's not what we're here talking about today, but even for the AI overviews in the GEO, and then how is it going to be found in the technology of the future? Because even if Google and Microsoft and others keep YouTube, et cetera, TikTok, even if they keep market share, they're going to be referencing AI and large language models to and personalization based on that. So you kind of you do have to have some awareness of like this game is changing and who can I reach out to, or what is the minimum? You don't have to learn all of this. What's the minimum I need to learn so that I can make the right decisions for if I should invest in content and content marketing, or, and it's just a completely okay answer, you're just going to pay the ads to generate your traffic off those platforms. But they are closed platforms that have to monetize. You're only going to interact with them in two ways. You're either a creator or you're a consumer. If you're a creator, you're making content. That's about 20% of the brands I run into that do it, that do it right. Everybody else gets to consume and buy the traffic. So I don't know. I don't care what the worst thing is to sit in the middle and to kind of make content, but not do it right. Even last week, we did some piloting. We're about to scale a brand. We stopped. Just said, look, take the money you're about to invest in content because they're a little too small and they have the resources for it. You're going to try to win at this content game and not quite get there. That's unfortunate. Why don't you just focus on, it's a limited ad budget. Keep doing your Amazon ads to keep the flywheel going. Keep doing your Google ads. As you continue to grow, they're about to pick up a new national retail distribution channel. Um, as you grow, maybe in 3 or 4 months when you're ready, play the content game and to be a content creator and a producer and an educator and a publisher, then let's do this. But again, that was a take at the end, but very much so. Like if you choose to play this game and be a content and a creator, you're gonna have to, there's table stakes as to how much you're gonna have to create to get the attention of Google and the platforms. And if not, no big deal. Run ads and run your Meta ads, run your Amazon ads, ride your Google or YouTube ads, and just bring people over and perfect that. Most brands have trouble doing both until they get to a certain size, maybe 10, 15, definitely at 20 million, 25 million. You start to be able to do both. But in the beginning, you kind of got to pick which one you're going to do. Um, just like you have to have a direct to consumer versus Amazon strategy. Neither one is right or wrong. They're just different. Being a creator and doing this versus just buying the ads, it's just different. So I hope everybody found that helpful. That was a lot of talking. I hope you got something out of it. You can find me on LinkedIn, Chuck Aikens, Chuck Isaac Aikens, CIA, or you can go to Taimu.com or now Taimu.ai. Taimu is named after my kids. My son is Tyler. My daughter's nickname when she was a baby was Morgan Moo. So Tai Moo, Tymoo. It's just me. I tinker and feel like I'm kind of a pioneer in the AI space, but long term, all I've ever done is develop content that brings brands traffic and helps them grow their revenue. AI just supercharges that, and now that same content is, it's what is training the large language models. So now we've got AI and content both helping create, but also can help you grow the brand if done right and at scale. So thanks everybody. I realize there we go. There were a couple chats, but hey, reach out to me. I'm more than happy to jump on a phone call with anybody. There's only a couple of you. I've typically done 3 or 4 calls after sessions like this, and don't worry if some of your questions are basic. I wanted to provide as much value as I could. This is recorded. Go back through it. If you got 1 or 2 or 3 things out of it, like, wow, what is Claude Projects? Or, what is this perplexity thing? I'm going to go run a search. Like, just do something, have curiosity, and thanks for having me.